So it's a little gray, it seems to me. Bob?
Well, it seems to me in this whole thing where you have one of the most successful, richest business people in the history of the country and a guy from Queens that, and this sophisticated third political party that somehow just the guy from Queens is the only guy who knew what was going on. So I think there are probably more questions at the end of this indictment than there are answers, and we'll have to wait and see how it goes and see what happens in the course of the investigation and any kind of trial and discovery and other things that come up. I don't think this has much of an impact for the Independence Party. I mean, the Independence Party is perfectly positioned, and I think that's why Andrew Cuomo is not disassociating himself. People who run with Independence Party endorsement like to have the veneer in the public that they're independent, that they're somehow not involved with any political party, when they are a political party, just like every other one. So I wouldn't expect Andrew Cuomo to distance them unless there's something like an indictment or a clear implication that they were involved in some kind of criminal activity.
Okay, but you don't think at all, either of you, and anybody can jump in on this one, that it's not fair or even potentially a little hypocritical, since he took a pass on the Working Families Party line, specifically because the Working Families Party is currently under investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office? And what's the difference there?
Well, the difference is he said he's on the line. He hasn't heard anything that dissuades him now, and he'll wait and see. And I think that's the proper approach to take.
Bob, you want a final word on that one before we move on?
I'm the last person who should be trying to read what's in the Attorney General's mind, but right now, politically, the Working Families Party is a political liability, and the Independence Party is a political asset.
Well, that's because he's taken, the Working Families Party is very liberal, and he's taken actually not so liberal stance, particularly when it comes to fiscal matters, right?
Well, the Working Families Party isn't anywhere near any of the solutions that are facing the state. And I think, and in that regards, politically, to be with them is to be for things that the public, by and large, will be against, and will actually make the current fiscal situation in the state worse.
You actually saw this interesting, how important it is to appeal to independent, that would be small I independent voters, blanks we call them, not Independence Party members. In the Siena poll, actually, very important, they are moving wholesale away from the Democrats, but not necessarily into the Republican column. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I want to compliment you on that nice segue on the independent stuff.
Oh, thank you.
But I think there's not that much to be made out of it all. What you have is an election season starting and a natural gravity you have in polls. And I think for the Republicans can't take any hope or gratitude that they're now 35 points behind. And as you said, there was no movement towards any Republican. Each one of the Republican candidates sits in the Siena poll around 24%, which is the base, have added nothing to that against any of the Democratic candidates. And so while it's natural, as now we're moved more towards an election season, particularly independents, to say, let's take a look at the race, I think there's little for Republicans to be happy about in that.
Bob, do you want to defend the Republicans here in the final word?
No, what I'd say, if I'm looking at this from the Republican perspective, it's that things haven't gotten worse. I wouldn't necessarily, and I'd agree with Richie, I don't think the Republicans could read this as saying things have gotten better. But the reality is, neither campaign has started directly talking to the voters in the way that candidates talk to voters. They haven't been doing mail, they're not up on the air, they're not running ads. Who knows when Andrew Cuomo will start running ads? Who knows whether Rick Lazio will ever be able to run ads? So they haven't really started talking to the voters. So I wouldn't put too much weight in it at all, except for something to watch. For Republicans, there might be some running room. I'm not really sure. I think they're still in a position where several big things have to go wrong for Andrew Cuomo, and then the Republicans have to capitalize on every single one of them in a big way for them to turn this race around.
Well, Bob, you get the final word, and of course we will be watching it, and we'll be weighing in with both of you, Bob Bellafiore and Richie Fife. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We are just